Back to the Future Part 3, the final film in the trilogy, and in most people's opinion, the weakest. And yeah, it's mine too. Not bad, but it doesn't have the tight, clever writing of the first movie or the over-the-top fun of the second movie, so it does kinda stick out as the black sheep. After Doc has been taken back to 1885, he sends Marty a letter saying the time machine has been ruined and he is happy to stay in 1885. But he hides the time machine in a mine and Marty gets 1955 Doc to help fix it. Just as he is about to leave, he notices a gravestone with Doc's name that says he dies just a week after he wrote the letter. So he heads back to 1885 to get him, but he gets into a confrontation with Biff's great-grandfather, Buford Mad Dog Tannen. Because apparently anyone with the name Tannen is a complete douchebag. But this guy's more than just a bully, he also has guns so he can kill you. Mad Dog challenges him to a duel, which Marty accepts thinking he will go back to the future. But the fuel line to the DeLorean has been busted, so now they have to find a way to get the car up to 88 miles per hour. I'm not a big fan of westerns. Granted, I haven't seen some of the really good ones like Tombstone and The Good and the Bad and the Ugly, but it's just not a genre I can get into a lot of the time. But with that said, I do still really like this movie a lot. Even though it's mostly a western, it also has elements of science fiction, comedy, and romance in there. And that's probably the best part of the movie, the romance. Doc falls in love with a woman named Clara Clayton, and the two are actually incredibly sweet together. I just love watching them. Clara isn't the most interesting character in the world, but she is still all around likable. The plot is actually pretty solid. We have a good reason as to why they can't just leave, and it heads up to a very suspenseful climax. In fact, the climax on the train is not only my favorite climax to the trilogy, but one of my favorite climaxes in film. And Marty's arrogance gets him into trouble and he eventually has to own up to his mistakes. In fact, this probably has some of the most character growth for both Marty and Doc. The biggest problem with the story is that it's pretty much a rehash of the first movie. Say what you will about part 2, but at least that one was different. This movie, they're stuck in the past and need to find a way to get back to the future. That's the exact same conflict from the first film. The only difference is that this time both Marty and Doc are stuck in the past. And instead of the time circuit's not working, the car itself isn't working. Also, like the other two, there are some plot holes. My biggest question is why Marty doesn't just tell 1955 Doc to move out of the way so he won't get hit by the lightning, or even just don't throw the almanac away so Biff can get it. But despite being the weakest in the series, I can't imagine the other two without this one. This really is one of the most solid trilogies of all time. It tells a complete story that technically takes place over just one weekend, and this one ends it on a perfect note. Doc's speech about the future being whatever you make of it, so make it a good one, is one of my favorite lines. And if anything, that's what these movies prove. You are in charge of your future, so always work your hardest to make it the best you can. So despite its problems, I'm still gonna give it a 7.5 out of 10. If you haven't seen it in a while because you were disappointed, give it another chance. I think if you get away from the hype, you can really enjoy this movie. So that's it for Back to the Future. No, I'm not doing that Doc Brown Saves the World thing since it was only a special feature for the Blu-ray, so it doesn't count as an actual movie. And next time we'll be talking about another movie I haven't seen, and the first one in our Zemeck-ithon that has a rotten rating on Rotten Tomatoes. So join me for that.